Welcome to Toy Business Unboxed, your gateway to the secrets of the toy industry. Here, Jason Shea, a toy entrepreneur and expert in the field.
Every product we develop is really inspired by some of the real life experience that we have with our son.
60% of all toys last year were sold on Amazon, which is incredible.
Be passionate about it because it's a road, it's a journey.
Like when you have an idea that you think is like gonna somewhat like change the world, make things better, I'd say go for it.
We'll guide you through the enchanting world of toy design, marketing, and manufacturing. Now let the unboxing begin.
Welcome back to another episode of Toy Business Unboxed podcast. Today, I'm happy to join by Julian, a seasoned licensing leader whose career spanned with Lucasfilm, Warner Brothers, and currently with Noble Collections. Julian has worked with some of the most recognizable names in entertainment, including Star Wars, Legos, Funko's Pop, and many other licensing brands, bringing the beloved character to toy shelf worldwide. So thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today, Julian.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So let's first start out with your long career in marketing and in the toys industry. What year did you start? And I know you have been doing this for a while. So what is the background on you even getting into this?
You know, in entertainment, it would have started at Warner Home Video when I started with domestic operations back in the day when we were figuring out how many units of VHS to make, how much beta, and how much Laserdisc. So that goes back a long time.
Oh, okay.
And after 6 years of Warner Home Video, went to 20th Century Fox Home Entertainment, where I spent 4 years.
Yeah.
And it was there that I met the team from Lucasfilm. While I was at Fox in 95 is when they released the original trilogy. The campaign was the original One Last Time. And it was released on VHS at the time. And I was overseeing the international marketing campaign for it. I developed all new key art with a wonderful artist named John Alvin, some new trailers, and it was all for the international launch of the original trilogy. But frequently I'd have to go up to Lucasfilm and get sign off on some of the creative elements and some of the plans, and got to know the team up there. So in 97, I was recruited to join them and head up international licensing based on my experience dealing with the international marketplace, marketing. And we do licensing in the video industry. Back then, you know, we would license the distribution rights to other companies. So I was familiar with the licensing structure. And that was really my introduction to toys and the traditional consumer products business. 1997, joined Lucasfilm, headed up international licensing, and was responsible for leading the international efforts on episode 1. Phantom.
Okay.
Obviously a wonderful experience. I learned a lot, but it was there that I really got under the hood and began working closely with companies like Hasbro, which was the lead toy partner at the time. Originally it was Galoob who had micro rights, but Galoob was acquired by Hasbro. And then it was while I was at Lucasfilm, sometime I think it was 97, maybe 98, that we negotiated and signed the Lego Star Wars deal, which was one of the first big entertainment licenses Lego had done. They'd done some licensing in the past, but on an entertainment side, this was a big shift for them. It was a big move. And I was in the room when that happened, when we negotiated that deal with them, and witnessing the onboarding of Lego within Lucasfilm and how professional and buttoned up they were, experiencing firsthand how good they are at marketing to kids and what a wonderful approach they have towards the products that they make. It was a great experience. So I'm proud to have been part of that. So my experience with Lego goes back to that. And after 3 years at Lucasfilm, Warner's came calling from the toy side. They wanted someone to They recruited me to come back. Our family was in LA, so I opted to take advantage of the opportunity and then eventually became the head of Global Toys. So I worked with a lot of partners. Some of the more notable ones that we helped get launched at the time was Funko. Funko had a concept for something they used to call Funko Force, which became Funko Pop.
Funko Pop, okay.
Which at the time, we couldn't get it approved. The original iterations, they had the black eyes. They had very limited facial features. And there was a lot of concern that it wasn't on brand from a few people. Because ultimately, and we can talk about this later, as you're licensing toys, you still have to follow a roadmap set up by the franchise team. Here's the core consumer, here's the DNA of the IP, do's and don'ts. And because it's such a unique interpretation of the characters, it did require approval. And there was a lot of resistance, but the person I was working with, a woman named Daniela Butner, really believed in it. I believed in it, and we, kept pushing really hard. And then finally, I annoyed the people at DC Comics to the point where they said, "Okay, fine, go for it." You know, and in
Well, but
essence, you just do it. How bad can it be? And in essence, said, "On your head be it. If it doesn't work, this is, figure it out." I said, "Oh, fine."
yeah, I see.
Um,
Okay.
it was not the first time I had to take a risk on something like that.
Yeah.
Obviously, it panned out. It played very
Yeah.
well.
Obviously, it's very
Um,
successful. Yeah.
and it was a very good run for us. Managed the Lego relationship when I was at Warner Brothers, based on my experience working with them, obviously, and I was heading up the Global Toys.
Yeah.
So they had the Harry Potter deal when I had gotten there already,
Okay.
but
Okay.
was involved with renewing those, bringing Batman to Lego. We did some
Yeah.
Scooby Doo with Lego. Did a lot of work with Lego. I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
Also helped work with a company that unfortunately isn't around anymore, but QMX used to do some great figures called QFigs that we helped get off the ground and get going. And just, you know, having the opportunity to work while I was at Warner Bros. On everything from Scooby Doo to Harry Potter to It, and
Mhm.
everything in between
Okay.
from G to R
Mhm.
was a lot of fun. We had a chance to really build the collectible business while I
Okay.
was there at Warner Brothers and
Okay.
do some great stuff on the toy front with Mattel and Lego and
I
Funko
see.
and companies like, QMX and Mezco, doing some cool
Mm.
collectibles with them as well.
Okay. And what year do you got into Noble Collection, the current company?
So I joined Noble Collection in 2020. So
Oh, okay.
I went back to Warner's in 2000, right?
Oh,
So I joined them in 2000 and
yeah.
then was there until 2020. So 20 years. And just a lot of things came together that made it the right time to move. One, I had been thinking about being on the manufacturing side because all my experience was just on the licensing side, licensing out. And I thought, doing something with a manufacturer is a chance to leverage everything I've learned over the years and learn new things. There's always new
Yeah.
things,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially on the other side of the table. So that
Yeah.
was a good opportunity. Second, I was living in California at the time with my wife, and both of our daughters were on the East Coast.
Okay.
My oldest was doing a residency in South Carolina.
Okay.
My youngest was finishing law school in Boston. So
Okay.
as we were looking at opportunities, there were a couple we were looking at, but the opportunity to come to the East Coast was very exciting for us because our daughters were out here. So we thought that'd be great.
Mhm.
And then perhaps most equally as important was the company. Noble Collection. I had known them for about, almost 20 years. I signed them as a licensee 17, 18, 19 years ago.
Really? Okay. It's
Yeah.
full circle. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, they were a big Lord of the Rings licensee, making prop
Ah,
replicas for Lord of the Rings,
okay.
swords, jewelry inspired by Julian. Just an exquisite program of beautiful products. And, I thought, with their attention to detail, the quality, their
Mhm.
understanding of props and consumer and the collector market, they'd be great for Harry Potter. And
Okay.
talked to them about Harry Potter, and they saw it right away. And we're
Yeah.
talking, like I said, 17, 18 years ago. They said, yeah, prop make a lot of sense. Wands are a no-brainer, but they also had other great ideas. Interestingly enough, at the time, obviously the program's evolved over years, but at the time, there was a specific list of categories that
Mhm.
we were greenlit to license consumer products.
Okay.
And there were
Yeah.
some areas they didn't want to go into. Some,
Okay.
were common. Others were just no one had thought of it. Prop replicas wasn't on the list. So we had to do a big pitch to get the key stakeholders to sign off. Obviously they did. We brought on Noble Collection, and the rest was kind of history. So for 15 to 18 years, Noble Collection has really grown as a company. Their range of Harry Potter props is phenomenal. We make everything from the obvious, like a Harry Potter wand, to
Yeah.
to a deep cut, like Horace Slughorn's hourglass.
Oh,
Beautiful.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll make
Okay.
all these things. Our
Yeah.
prices range from the affordable to the aspirational, and it's just been a wonderful, wonderful run. So I've seen all their product. I've just been a huge fan of what they were doing. When they found out I was, I could be available for an opportunity, and they reached out. It was just between that, the fact that we're on the East Coast, it was too good to miss up, too good to pass up. So I've been here since 2020. I've learned a lot in that time and really enjoy working on this side of the table.
I see. So I have a follow-up question. I think this is also a question for a lot of our audience because obviously a lot of our listeners are entrepreneur in the toys and games space, and obviously licensing is a big deal for the industry. Since
Right.
you have been on the both side of the table, especially on the licensee side, what are some of the things for some newer people trying to get into licensing that should be aware of when they're on the negotiation table, try to get a license from Harry Potter or from some of the bigger license
Right.
that they should know before going to the negotiation?
Right.
So
Well, you should know that any licensing executive you're going to deal with is obviously looking to grow their business, enhance the
yeah,
brand, and bring the right partners on board, right? So
sure.
there's a willing audience on that side. The limitations that they have to navigate are, for example, franchise plans.
Mm.
Let's say you make prop replicas and you've got an idea for a prop replica you want to do for a product, but for whatever reason, the
Mhm.
franchise team says, no, we're targeting whatever, 7-year-old boys. We don't want to go into prop replicas. It is what it is, right?
Okay.
No matter how good a product idea is, if it doesn't fit the franchise plan, there's nothing they can do about it. So they have to
True.
manage that piece. Second, there's so many agreements that are usually in place on some of these brands that these licensing executives are looking for, a clean lane, a swim lane that you can optimize and go into with someone that they can trust to stay in their lane. We aren't that partner that gets a lot of, that our licensing partners get a call from whatever, toy company X or toy company Y saying, why'd you do this with Noble Collection? They're stepping on my toes. We don't.
Mhm.
It's important to us and it's important to the licensors to find, some clean lanes that you can go into that build the business, generate incremental revenue while being on brand and following the franchise plan.
Yeah.
Sometimes, it depends on, there's different factors involved and different players. But you get some pretty crowded marketplaces and a lot of licensing taking place in similar spaces. And, it's more common with some brands or licensors than others, but that's a challenge. You just have to figure a way to hopefully differentiate your product and minimize the overlap. But just, keep in mind these licensing business groups exist to, optimize the revenue opportunity for the studios on the different IPs and
Yeah.
to, keep the brands relevant. At the end of the day, some of these brands, whether it's, a 20-year-old property or, 12-year-olds or 3, if there's no new content, it's the consumer products team and the, live team entertainment people that are keeping it relevant, keeping it going. As one of my old bosses once said, or frequently said, there's a new 7-year-old born every day, right? So there's a 7-year-old today that has, for example, didn't see Harry Potter in the movie theaters,
Mhm.
but there's a new HBO series coming. They
Yeah.
will watch that. So yeah, you keep in mind that no matter how much you love something, there's a new generation that hasn't experienced it yet, unless
Mhm.
there's a lot of content behind it. And in the case where there's not a lot of content behind it, it's the studios and the licensing divisions that are really driving engagement with consumers and keeping it relevant and top of mind. And
Mhm.
some people are, better than others. There's not a lot of Mickey Mouse movies out there, but Mickey Mouse is,
Yeah.
iconic, and he's part of our cultural DNA at this point
Mhm.
around the world, right?
True.
And, on average, it's not content that's driving that today. It's
Mhm.
other factors that drive.
I see. I think it's always the hardest when you try to get your first license, but once you get some under your belt, things get a little bit easier, I think.
Well, it gets easier as long as you are able to deliver on what you need. And like sometimes deliver doesn't necessarily mean hit the minimum guarantees, right? Sometimes you might find you might not hit your guarantee,
Sure.
but you deliver as a licensee. You don't create drama for the licensor. People enjoy the product. You follow the rules. You listen
Yeah.
to the product development people. You dot all your I's and cross all your T's. We pride ourselves on being a high return, low maintenance licensee.
Okay.
They won't say it, but every licensor does a dollar to pain ratio calculation, right? Some licensees are pain. They're just always a lot of work to be involved.
Yeah.
If they deliver the revenue, you do it.
Yeah.
If you don't, if there's not enough money there, by the amount of work and effort
True.
and beef you have to do,
True.
then you would just probably won't renew that licensee, right? Everyone does that calculation in business.
Mhm. And like for you on the other side, like which license are you trying to secure? Do you have like a certain criteria you're also looking at before you try to do the negotiation on say, "Oh, because of the new movie that's coming out, we should try to get this license, so on and so forth."
Right. Well, we can't talk about deals that we're pursuing because in some cases there are negotiations ongoing.
Sure.
I can say that what we look for, the Noble Collection,
Yeah.
is all of the IP that we manage enjoys cross-generational appeal. Probably the product that we make that skews the youngest is our Wicked Roleplay toys. But those Wicked Roleplay toys, which are based on the film, are based on a film that are based on a play that's 25 years old, that was
Yeah.
inspired by a book that's
True.
by Frank L. Baum, the original Wizard of Oz, that goes back, decades. So,
Yeah.
there's a lot of Wizard of Oz fans who know Wicked and who are bringing their kids to it. Things
Okay.
like Harry Potter. The first film is celebrating 25 years
Oh
since it was
yeah.
released
Yeah.
next year.
True.
So you've had a couple of generations come through now. My daughter was 8 years old when she started reading the books, and now she has her own little girl who she'll be introducing to the books.
Mhm.
So all of our IP has this cross-generational appeal. We also enjoy a consumer base that's very broad. We have,
Okay.
8-year-old kids who want to buy, or a 7-year-old kid can buy a Glinda bubble wand.
Okay.
An 80-year-old grandmother can buy a Harry Potter wand either for herself or for her grandchild. So
Mhm.
our products have a very wide range. You've got a wide range, and we also benefit from a very strong female base as well. We're a
Oh,
collectibles company that makes
okay.
us pretty unique. Yeah,
True.
that's a function of the IP that we manage, right?
I
We
see.
have, yes, our DC products. We do a lot of wonderful products based off Chris Nolan's Dark Knight films, some really beautiful collectibles. Those
Yeah.
obviously sell more to men, but things like Harry Potter, Wicked, even Jurassic Park have audiences that are both male and female. Look at
Oh, okay.
Minecraft is celebrating 15 years now, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and our Minecraft product is enjoyed by adults, by
Mhm.
younger Minecraft players, enjoyed by boys and girls. So,
Mhm.
cross-generational appeal, dual gender appeal is
Mhm.
important, but we recognize some IP skew one way or the other. And the timeliness, like I said, these are timeless IPs that get passed down are the most important.
Okay. And what are some of the trends that you're seeing today in like toy licensing and collectible in general?
I think toy companies are becoming more nimble at turning things around and getting them quicker. You
Yeah.
look at how quickly, like Mattel went from announcing their K-pop Demon Hunter dolls to bringing them out. It's pretty remarkable. We get more nimble. We've taken something like a chess set, which normally takes about a year to
Yeah.
produce and bring
Okay.
to market. We were able to bring our Wicked chess set to the market in once we decided to move forward with it, about 8 months from
Oh, okay.
green light to
Okay.
on shelf, which is pretty
I
quick.
see.
But I think companies are getting quicker. I think that was necessitated by the speed at which concept is being consumed and
Yeah.
how
True.
there's a lack of stickiness for
Yeah.
content is the best way to
True.
put it. Things can be great, but do they stick?
Yeah.
Is it just something that burns hot and brightly and goes away, or does it continue? And the reality is, even the biggest of IP faces stickiness challenges.
Are you
And
also trying to utilize some of the latest technology like 3D printings, so on, to kind of
we
shorten the
we
development
for
cycle?
prototyping, yeah, and we have a wonderful printer, a great printer in-house. We do a lot of 3D printing here, and for some of our products, it's also a key part of the development to just determine, how the sizing looks, how the fit looks. If we're looking at a chess set, we'll actually print up a couple of different sizes and options and poses just to get a feel for what looks and works best on the board. Ultimately, one of the things you have to factor when designing a chess set is, do the pieces fit on the board?
For sure.
If you look at a Jurassic Park chess set, you got a T-Rex on there. Now, if you put a T-Rex in a running pose, it's not going to fit on the board. You can't put a figure up. In chess, the figures sometimes stand placed next to each other. And if you got a T-Rex in a running pose, you can't have say it's a pawn. You can't have the pawn standing behind it. So we have it
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
pose
Yeah.
where it's whipping around, turning out to attack. So the tail is whipped around so it fits on the board.
Yeah.
Things like that you have to do. So there's a lot of time that goes in developing, but
Ah,
we've
yeah.
compressed it. I think the speed at which they're doing it is just a factor of how challenging it is for content to stick and stay relevant with people,
True. And
especially
what?
kids.
Yeah. Of course. Yeah. They have very short attention span nowadays.
Short attention span, and they can see whatever they want anytime they want,
Yes.
24/7, right? They want to see Scooby-Doo, they can watch Scooby-Doo. They want to
Yeah.
watch Batman, they can watch Batman. They want to watch Shrek, they can watch Shrek.
Yeah.
No limit to what they can
True.
to access almost.
Yeah. And based on your current experience, what would you say is some of the biggest challenge that you have faced working with some of those iconic brands?
With the iconic brands, it's not so much a challenge as it is a responsibility. You're
Okay.
working on brands that matter to people. It's important to them. It's they've integrated into their lives.
Of
It's
course.
part of the displays they have in their home. People have they have tattoos. These things matter. They pass it down to their kids. There's moments in their lives that they connect with that creates an emotional connection with the IP. And
Yeah.
when you're developing products for that consumer, I believe you need to hold yourself to a higher level of accountability.
Yeah.
I didn't mention it, but one of the things that we look at is it needs to be an IP that we want to work on as well.
Yeah.
I
The
think
team wants to work on. Yes. Yeah.
in our space, collectibles, a fan or a collector, they'll know if something was built by some person in a suit working in some office in, whatever, Manhattan, versus, a group of nerds who love this as much as they do and are putting
Yeah.
it into the product. You
Yeah.
look at, companies like, I think Mezco's a good example of that. Those with their figures are
Okay.
absolutely phenomenal. And, the folks over there love these IPs. Same thing with our approach here.
Yeah.
As we're looking at it, when we signed up recently, I don't think we put an announcement out yet, but we'll have some product on display at the coming shows for Transformers. We're going to do some chains and a couple of dioramas.
Yeah.
And it's just the fact that, people here love Transformers. With the opportunity to present itself as, when we get plenty of calls from people saying, we think you guys would be great for this.
Yeah.
And unless it's a total non-fit, I'll discuss it with the team. And it was, every so often you bring, and now we got a chance to Transformers. And, oh, yeah, what can we do for Transformers? We can do this property. It goes, I don't know, maybe. But we're looking for that response. And the challenge from our side is, can you meet the expectations of a consumer who is passionate, informed, and demanding, understandably, right? Same way I am with the collectibles that I pick up for myself as well. So there's added pressure, but it's not if that's what we see ourselves as a company. That's one of our missions, is deliver product that brings the joy to a collector, that starts with the unboxing experience. When they get the packaging, when they open it, do you deliver on it? In many cases, it's a considered purchase. Some cases they had to answer, they talk, if it's expensive, they had to get, buy-in from a significant other. Right?
Yeah.
I know no matter how much I like it, I can't go spend, $1,000 on a replica of the slippers from Wicked without checking with my wife, right? That's kind of a big expense to undertake myself. So you've gotten signed off in some cases, you've saved up money in other cases, or you've answered the dreaded, where are you going to put that question, right? So there's a lot of expectations on their end. And if you can deliver on that, you've done your job as a collector partner. And you've done right by the brand, and the licensors know that. The licensors know which partners are bringing that type of joy to the fans, and it's important to them.
I see. Yeah, that's definitely a very important aspect to be aware of. And as we're kind of wrapping up today's interview here, if you had to share just one piece of advice with someone that's getting started within the toys and game industry, especially related to licensing, what would that be?
I would just tell people persistence is key. Your network is important. Who you're dealing with. Be patient. You're passionate about it, so you're going to pursue it. I've encountered people in this industry who wound up in it because they were recruited. They were great in, their legal minds, marketing minds, recruited to come into it. And I've met people who were in it because it was their dream to work in the toy industry all the time. Now, and those people tend to stick around. The industry is incestuous. People will move from toy company to toy company to toy company, or they'll move from licensor to licensor, or back and forth. It happens because I think toy people recognize toy people, right?
Yeah.
Who's a toy person? Who really gets excited into this stuff? One of my favorite stories is this gentleman in the business named Kevin McNulty. He started a company called Endless Games, and he knew he wanted to get in the toy business. And now Kevin's, I'm not sure of his age, and he probably wouldn't even want me to guess, but certainly I'd say he's old. I can comfortably say he's older than I am. But, he knew he wanted to get in this business. And the toy industry used to be centered around a toy building in New York City, down near the Flatiron District.
Okay.
It was called the Toy Building. And that's every toy company had showrooms either in the building or nearby it.
Okay.
And he bought a shoe shine kit. This was back in the days when people did shoe shines. And he set it up in front of the toy building, and he offered free shoe shines to anyone who came out of the building.
Okay.
And as they was giving him a shoe shine, he'd ask questions.
Yeah.
Where do you work? How did you get in there? How did you start in this business?
I
Do you
see.
know anyone who's looking for someone who's looking? I mean, he just kept doing that over and over again until an opportunity presented itself. And it presented because of his, dogged determination to get into the business and the innovative approach that he. So, it's like that. And then there's also, just recruiting, happens through a normal process. But it's your network's important. You're going to take a shotgun approach at first as you're applying for opportunities, and then, hopefully one pops through. But, it's engaging with people that any opportunity you get, whether it's at, toy fairs, etc. And just remember, it's a huge business, but it's small in terms of the people. It's fueled by passion. The people in it are passionate about it. We know other toy people when we're talking to them, and we know, hey, I'm thankful for the just solid, legal and finance people I've worked with over the years that are just finance and legal people, aren't toy people. They've contributed a lot to the business over the years. But if you're going to get into the manufacturing side, on the licensing side here on toys, it's important you're passionate about. That will come through. People do look for that in the business.
Yeah. I really like the emphasis you put on your network, because that's a common saying, your network is your net worth. So it's really about who you know.
It
right?
is. Over the years, it proves to be helpful in terms of calling someone on my network saying, hey, I'm sure they're just real busy, but I just can't get this person to call me back. You mind reaching out for me on my behalf? All that, it's been very helpful over the years. Likewise, I've had people call me and say, look, I'm trying to get this deal done with this person. Can you make an introduction? And sometimes it turns into, a deal that works out for for everybody. As you look around the companies that you could look at, there's so many fueled by passion. It's fun. I love, especially on the collectible side, that's really absolutely driven by connection to fandoms. And there's all types. You look at someone like Lionel. I love what Lionel's been doing over the years. I used to play with trains. I love trains. I have a couple of collectible pieces, and I enjoy seeing what they do with their fan interactions. They really engage with their consumers very well. And we've taken some pages from that book as well. Through our fan engagement on social media, Instagram pages has been a way to really connect with our fans in a way that has been very rewarding for us.
For sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you so much again for your time today on the show. For those of our audience want to learn more about your companies, where's the best place for people to find you online?
Best place to find us online is noblecollection.com, NOBLE collection.com. It's a place to learn a bit about us, our history, and all the products that we currently have available in our product lines across all the IP we currently represent.
I see. Okay.
Then follow us on Instagram as well. The Noble Collection is on Instagram, and it's a great way to see some of the ways that we're engaging with our collectors.
For sure. We'll make sure we put that into the show note. And thank you so much for your time today, sharing your knowledge, your story, and your journey in the industry so far.
Great. I love the business, love the people that's in it, and it's rewarding in many aspects. The best of which is walking down the street and seeing either a kid or a fan or a cosplayer holding one of our products. It just fills my heart. It really makes me happy when I can see that happen. So it is very rewarding in addition to being fun, right? We're in the business of ultimately bringing happiness and joy to people. Sure. And in some cases with some of our toys and games, something helps, like chess sets. People feel good about giving people chess sets. You learn things. So, small ways to bring a little bit of happiness or light into people's worlds.
For sure. Thank you again for your time. And thank you for our audience for tuning in to this episode of Toy Business Unboxed podcast. I hope today's conversation gave you some practical insight and fresh inspiration for growing your own toys and game brands. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Toy Launch, a leading marketing and growth partner for toys and game companies. At Toy Launch, we help brands scale on Amazon and beyond through full service account management, PPC, SEO, creative, catalog optimization, influencer marketing, and more. If you are looking for a proven team that understands both the toys and game industry inside out and digital marketing, we're here to help. If you like a personalized breakdown of your brand, your opportunity, and your best next step for digital marketing, you can schedule a free consultation with us. Just visit toy-launch.com/schedule. If you want to connect with other toys and game founders and entrepreneurs, feel free to join our free community, Toys and Games Launchpad, at toys-launch.com/group. For more resource, update, and industry insight, visit us at any time at toy-launch.com. Until next time, keep innovating, keep creating, keep bringing joys to toys. This is Jason Shea signing off on the Toy Business Unboxed podcast. We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.